My name is Ava Mitchell, and this narrative illustrates the lesson I learned. At times, family can become your greatest adversary, particularly in business. Over a decade, I dedicated my energy and commitment to our modest family-owned tech firm, turning it from a fledgling startup into a $50 million enterprise. Success, however, can unveil the most unpleasant aspects of individuals, even those expected to support you. I vividly recall the origins of our venture when it was merely a small computer repair store in a strip mall, hardly making ends meet. My father initiated it 2 decades ago, and despite its difficulties, it was his pride and joy. Lauren, my sister, was always the favored child, excelling academically and attending a top-tier business school, much to my dad's delight. Conversely, I was the reserved one, staying to assist while attending a local college for a computer science degree. "Ava, you're squandering your potential here," Lauren would comment on her visits from school, suggesting more ambitious endeavors. But I identified something unrecognized in that modest shop, its potential. While Lauren analyzed theoretical business models, I was acquiring practical insights, coding, fixing systems, and perceiving market opportunities unnoticed by others. During my last college year, I developed our first in-house software, a basic yet efficient inventory management tool for small businesses. It wasn't revolutionary, but was cost-effective, user-friendly, and addressed a genuine need. Initially, Dad was doubtful. But as local enterprises commenced purchasing licenses, his viewpoint shifted. "Maybe you're onto something here, kiddo," he remarked, and for the first time, I witnessed a glimmer of pride in his eyes. That moment was invaluable, though I had no idea how fleeting it would be. Under my guidance, the business began to thrive. I worked relentlessly, 14-hour days, 7 days a week, dedicating everything to our success. While Lauren climbed the corporate ladder at a leading consulting firm in New York, I was constructing something tangible. Our small repair shop transitioned into an expansive software development company, reaching from local patrons to national corporations. My mother watched me with undue concern. "Don't work yourself into the ground, Ava," she'd advise, delivering dinner to my office. "You need a life beyond this." But I couldn't halt, perhaps chasing validation or proving my ability to create something of my own. 5 years into our transformation, we reached a milestone, the first million in annual revenue. That's when Lauren, unexpectedly, expressed renewed interest in the family business. She abandoned her prestigious job and relocated back home. At a family gathering, she declared, "I believe it's time I assume my rightful position in the company," exhibiting her usual confidence. With my business acumen, we could truly elevate things. Dad practically beamed, excitedly agreeing, "That's wonderful, sweetheart. Your professional insight would be very beneficial here."
Isett, folk post med der.
Trying to comprehend the unfolding scenario, the business I had nurtured from scratch was now being bequeathed to Lauren as if it were an inherited asset. I swallowed my reservations, choosing to play along. Despite lacking industry experience, Lauren was appointed as co-CEO, with Dad insisting it would enhance our company's image. As our business thrived over the next 5 years under Lauren's leadership credentials, I focused on product development and operations. Meanwhile, Lauren took charge of marketing and cultivating relationships with investors. Despite our success, tension grew between us. I was busy developing new software, establishing relationships, and enhancing our services. In the background, Lauren was building her public persona as the company's face. She frequently gave interviews about being a woman in tech, received awards for entrepreneurship, and even took credit for innovations in which she had no involvement. As our revenue soared to $50 million, so did the power struggle. Lauren started excluding me from crucial meetings and made decisions without consulting me, subtly and systematically pushing me to the margins of my own creation. Then came Dad's 60th birthday party, an event that changed everything. Naturally, the party was Lauren's idea. She booked the grand ballroom at the city's most expensive hotel and invited all our business associates. It was less a birthday celebration and more a networking event in disguise, typical of Lauren's style of giving everything a purpose. I arrived early to assist with the preparations, dressed simply in black. Upon seeing me, Lauren gave me a familiar disapproving look, criticizing my effort in front of influential people. Ignoring her as I usually did, I focused on greeting guests. Business executives, investors, and family friends quickly filled the room. Lauren maneuvered through the crowd with the savvy of a seasoned politician, shaking hands and offering her well-practiced smile, while I remained in the background ensuring everything went smoothly. Dinner was eventually served, and just as I began to feel at ease, Lauren called for attention by clinking her glass. I anticipated a conventional speech, perhaps a heartfelt tribute to Dad or some amusing childhood anecdotes. Instead, she announced something that changed everything. While celebrating Dad's 60th birthday, with a voice filled with confidence and command, she mentioned the need to declare significant changes at Mitchell Tuck. My stomach churned. Changes? What board meetings was she referring to? For too long, she said, we've been limited by old-fashioned thinking and resistance to change. Her eyes met mine as she announced that, effective immediately, she would be the sole CEO. It was time, she declared, for those no longer contributing to our growth to step aside. A whisper spread through the room as I sat there, frozen, enduring Lauren's public takeover. Some people, she added, her voice laden with feigned sympathy, are better suited to technical roles than leadership ones. She was alluding to me, humiliating me. Her words further stung as she proclaimed that her sister Ava, had done an adequate job maintaining legacy systems, but in today's fast-paced industry, what's needed is vision and excellence. Frankly, Ava, she said, you're just not suited for this level of business. I looked to Dad, willing him to say something, to defend me, but he merely nodded along, pride showing on his face. Mom, however, avoided eye contact, her hands visibly trembling on the table. Lauren wasn't finished. With increasing dramatic effect, she stated the hard truth, addressing me. Ava, you are? The quiet atmosphere in the room was almost unbearable as I absorbed Lauren's words. My outdated ideas and lack of formal business education were now considered liabilities in today's corporate landscape. Hundreds of eyes were fixed on me, awaiting my reaction. And all I sensed was the silent agreement with my sister's judgment. Everything I had worked tirelessly for, each late night and sacrifice, was being dismantled in front of everyone. Slowly, I stood up, the chair scraping noisily against the floor, echoing in the silence like a gunshot. The audience seemed to expect drama, perhaps tears or a confrontation, but I simply collected my purse, approached Dad's table, and laid a small wrapped package in front of him. Happy birthday, Dad, I quietly said, before walking out with my head high, leaving behind the whispers the stares. And my sister, who thought she had emerged victorious. That night, I spent my time in my home office, surrounded by awards and patents showcasing my name. Lauren believed she had stripped everything away from me, but she overlooked one key detail, one that could transform her moment of triumph into her gravest error. As I began typing on my laptop, a small smile formed on my lips. Tomorrow promised to be intriguing after all, for there is more than one method to lead a prosperous business. In 10 years, I had acquired far more knowledge than Lauren with her luxury business education. The next morning, the sun rose bright and clear, indicating an imminent change. Arriving at the office before anyone else, I waited. Promptly at 9 a.m., Lauren entered through the front doors with Dad beside her, both donning confident smiles, smiles that were about to vanish. Ava, Lauren exclaimed with a blend of surprise and irritation, what are you doing here? I thought you'd have the decency to stay home after last night. I flashed a smile, recalling the email dispatched at 3 a.m. to every major client, partner, and employee at Mitchell Tech. Just tidying up some loose ends, I said, but since you're here, we should probably discuss the company's future. There's nothing to discuss, Dad interrupted firmly. Lauren's in charge now. The board has already sanctioned it. Ah, yes, the board, I replied, displaying my tablet. Let's address that. I tapped the screen, causing the main monitor in the conference room to light up with a document. While Lauren busied herself with festivities and interviews, I was actually building this company. There are a few things you both may have overlooked. I displayed another document. Zooming in for effect. First, let me remind you that I own 51% of Mitchell Tech shares. When we incorporated a decade ago, Dad allocated equal shares of 25% each to Lauren and me while retaining 50% for himself. But 3 years ago, when funds were required for expansion, Dad sold me 6% of his shares. You remember that day, Dad? You were preoccupied with Lauren's award function and signed off the papers without scrutinizing them. Both their faces turned pale, while Lauren's perfectly maintained hands gripped the table. "That's impossible," she uttered. "Dad would never." "But he did," I continued, unveiling another document. "And that's not everything." My eyes remained fixed on the screen, now filled with the legal filings, the contracts that form the backbone of our company's revenue stream. It's startling how 80% of our income stems from core software that Mitchell Tech doesn't even own. It's my separate companies, Innovate Solutions LLC property. Presently, there's merely a licensing deal which is set to expire. I glanced at my watch, noting it was approximately 10 minutes ago when Dad slumped into a chair, realization spreading across his features. "The renewal papers," he muttered, recalling the ones I asked him to endorse the previous week, which he neglected to read. Because I was tied up with Lauren's party plans, I concluded his thoughts. "Indeed, those papers. I opted against filing them." Rage twisted across Lauren's face. "You deceitful little," she began, but I interrupted coolly. "Careful, sister. Best listen to the rest before hurling accusations." With another click, emails surged onto the screen. "While you were proudly announcing my graceful withdrawal yesterday evening, I was dispatching emails to our clientele. You see, most significant clients have loyalty clauses due to me, aligning personally because of my know-how and significant achievements. Last night, I informed them of the leadership turnover and my exit. On the screen, I highlighted the avalanche of replies from our principal accounts, asking, 'Curious about how many have activated their contract termination clauses?' I glanced at Lauren. 'Might you also want to know how many of our top developers, who, by the way, are actually on Innovate Solutions' payroll rather than Mitchell Tech's, have agreed to join my new venture?' Silence accompanied the revelation. We observed through the glass walls as employees congregated, hushed voices emerging amidst them as they checked emails. Frantically, Lauren scrambled for her phone, her usually flawless demeanor fracturing as she scanned the messages. "You can't do this," she stammered. "Oh, so I can't reclaim what is rightfully mine?" I retorted, composed. "You assumed stepping in with an MBA and Dad's nod meant victory, assumed humiliating me in public was without consequence. Here are your options," I systematically continued, allowing the gravity of my words to linger. "Option 1. I depart, claiming my shares, software, clients, and employees, leaving Mitchell Tech as a hollowed entity. You explained to all those prominent guests from last night why the company's value has plummeted overnight. Dad seemed to age 10 years within the last few minutes. The second option?" he asked weakly. "Option 2. Both of you resign," I stated, drawing a breath, confronting their shocked faces with firm, calm eyes. "I'll assume full control of Mitchell Tech. You'll both retain your shares as silent partners, reaping dividends yet having no operational influence. Lauren receives a nice severance and sterling references for a role far from here." Lauren's face flushed an interesting scarlet. "You orchestrated this all along, waiting for a chance to betray us." A laugh escaped me, devoid of amusement. "No, Lauren. I've spent a decade trying to be a good daughter and sister, underappreciated all along. I constructed this company while you reaped my accolades. Planning this," glancing again at my watch, "only emerged about 12 hours ago after being publicly demeaned." My phone tinged with another notice of client termination. Time's dwindling. What's the decision going to be? And so, the following hour unfolded, surrounded by a blur of legal documents and lawyers. I found myself sitting alone in what had become my office, gazing out at the city by midday. The company that I had created was now solely mine, yet the triumph felt empty. The relationships with my family were shattered like fragile glass, trust broken irreparably. That night, my mother came to visit me, her eyes swollen from tears. "Did it have to end like this?" she asked gently. Holding her gaze, I replied softly but firmly, "They left me with no other choice. They would have taken everything I had worked for and discarded me without hesitation." She nodded slowly, apprehending but sorrowful. "What comes next?" she asked. I turned my laptop towards her, presenting the plans I had already mapped out, expansions, new product lines, and innovations I had long been holding back. I exhaled, feeling lighter than I had in ages. Now I will build something even larger, but this time I will do so without those who view me as worthless. A year later, under my sole leadership, Mitchell Tech's value had tripled. Lauren secured a position at a Silicon Valley startup, humbled but hopefully wiser. Dad retired, finally realizing that his favored child had almost destroyed his legacy. We see each other during holidays, keeping an outwardly polite distance while wounds that might never fully heal remain masked. Sometimes late at night, I glance at old family photographs and feel a pang of longing for what we lost. But then, I recall that night at the birthday party, the disdain on Lauren's face, and how Dad had nodded in agreement with her harsh words. I remind myself that, in both business and family, respect must be earned, not freely given. They learned that lesson too late. My journey became a cautionary tale within business circles about underestimating the wrong person. At various industry events, I often overhear whispers, "That's Ava Mitchell." Though they never finish the sentence, they don't need to. My success speaks for itself. Just last week, I received an invitation to speak at Lauren's business school's graduation ceremony on hidden strengths, the power of underestimated leaders. I accepted it with a faint smile, already drafting my speech in my mind. After all, I have quite the story to share. While the company continues to flourish under my guidance, more crucially, I have found peace with my decisions. Sometimes, the most powerful message is simply proving others wrong, and occasionally, the greatest revenge is not about bringing others down. Instead, it's about soaring so high that they must acknowledge their misjudgments. As I sit in my office overlooking the cityscape, I recall something my mother once told me: "Success is the best revenge. But wisdom is knowing when to cease seeking revenge and start pursuing growth." She was right. I have moved beyond the notion of revenge. Nowadays, I concentrate on constructing something meaningful, something that transcends petty jealousies and family conflicts. I still keep that wrapped birthday gift I never gave Dad, a photo album chronicling the company's journey from a modest repair shop to what it is today. Perhaps one day, when the wounds have sufficiently healed, I will finally give it to him. Until then, it rests on my shelf, a silent reminder that our greatest strengths often stem from the very aspects others overlook.